I believe that what happened last week is showing to all European Union citizens and many outside of our borders the first lesson we have to learn, which is that you need to be more united and really united, not only at words, not only on papers, but in practice.
With the French terrorist assassination still raw in the minds of a global society seeking to make sense of what comes next and how to stop the next attacks, France, Europe, and the globe are now forced to deal with one of the more vexing problems facing everybody, that of ensuring people are allowed to emigrate and keep their cultures alive, versus the demand they assimilate into the society they choose to become part of. Add to that the defiance of those who refuse to blend in, and you have a very simmering powder keg. Let's welcome back to MidPoint, former member of the UK Parliament and the senior economic consultant for Euro-Pacific Capital, our expert on British affairs, John Browne, joins us in studio. John, always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you very much. Always a great pleasure to be here.
Are we getting to the point now, in light of what happened in France, that not only the French, but all the other countries in Europe are needing to step back and say, we've been doing it wrong for several years now. We've been caught, and this is our wake-up call?
I couldn't agree more. I found it, with great sympathy. The Great March in Paris was a most impressive event. But what was slightly ironic was leading it all these politicians who are responsible for causing much of the problem, with mass immigration against the will of their people, forced multiculturalism against the will of their people, and aggressive wars outside, not for defense, but for aggression and invasion, like Iraq, like Afghanistan, like Libya, and would have been Syria had the British Parliament not scotched it. And this has caused massive resentment in the Muslim world and firing up recruiting for this thing. And so we're facing a very dangerous situation, because whereas religion, Christianity in the West is sort of very lackadaisical, almost fading, in the Muslim world they're keen, they really believe. And so when their people are insulted, they really feel it. We sort of take it on the chin and smile. And we've built up resentment, and when we start insulting their religion and things, we really can expect to be hit.
In this country, we have a thinking process that President Obama is going through with his ideas on immigration, because the Democrats are looking to create future voters for generations on and on. What was the philosophy then behind, and you mentioned the European political leaders then, who pushed immigration despite the fact that their people didn't want it? Were they looking for the same thing, nothing more than generational votes, or something else?
I think partly that, because it was always pushed by the left, certainly in Britain. It's open door immigration, because it was part of the European Union. Once a person gets into Europe, they can travel anywhere in Europe they like. And of course they go to Germany and to Britain with the highest social security. And so they come for the money, really, but they don't assimilate. I mean, immigration, if the person wants to come to England and be British and live a British way and be part of the British and back the English team at cricket and things like that instead of some foreign team, that's fine. But when they want to come and create their own country within Britain, that's a different matter. And now we have within Britain, France and Germany, no-go areas where even the police won't go, and Sharia law rules in precedent over British law, for example, English law.
What is it now that come down to this? Here's that assimilation versus culture idea that I was talking about, because we want to keep their culture alive. No matter where anybody comes, you want to keep their culture, their religion alive. So then what was it that the European countries did that overextended? What did they not ask of these people? How did they basically let this get out of hand?
Well, I think the reason is because we had falling populations, and they needed increases in population to keep the economies going.
For taxes, for tax purposes and other reasons.
Yes,
okay.
Because fewer and fewer people were having to finance the social security and health of older and older people. People were living longer, and the birth rate was falling, so the situation was getting acute. Always on the back page, just 2 little inches, never on the front page, never admitted. And so they thought, well, the best way is to have huge immigration. They not only admitted it, they encouraged the immigration.
But if we look forward then now to where they're going with all this, because they have a culture that doesn't want to assimilate, are we now past the point of no return with the European countries? They simply can't ask, whether it be Muslim, Christian, whatever you want, to assimilate anymore. The people there simply wouldn't stand for it.
Well, I think we're approaching that, and you're beginning to see these demonstrations. People who didn't want the immigration in the first place are really starting to get vociferous. And the politicians who've caused this trouble are so nervous. I mean, you hear Merkel, now the ruler of Europe, effectively, and Cameron goes for his marching orders to Berlin. She, after this great march in Paris, was seen wearing a burqa at another gathering. So you can see how two-faced the whole thing is. They're scared stiff, the politicians in Britain, France, and Germany in particular.
Scared stiff of what?
Of Muslims and the problems that are now inherent in the countries.
What are they scared of with regard to the Muslims? Simply their
Uprising.
political power? Battles in the streets?
Well, battles in the streets are part of politics. I mean, politics is about power, and part of power is physical muscle. And you've got a speech in the House of Lords by that Dutch politician was organised, perfectly legitimate in the House of Lords. It was cancelled because a Muslim peer got up and said, if this man speaks in the House of Lords quite legally, I'm going to have a demonstration outside of at least 1 million people. And so they cancel it. You get people with hate crimes in Britain, clerics preaching hate, people walking with banners, that if an English person had walked with that banner, they'd be inside jail within minutes.
Is that the biggest problem then that the people in Britain are really upset about, where they know that they could get arrested, they could get detained for something, but the Muslim population cannot? Is that the core?
It's not, okay. I don't know if this is the core. It's one of the biggest cores, the one you hit on before, is they're not assimilating. And the second is that they're now favoured by the British politicians.
Favoured why? Again, because
of
money?
Fear.
Money,
fear.
We're coming back to money and fear, no matter which way you slice it?
I don't know money so much as fear. I mean, they just don't want to upset the Muslims, so they're quite prepared to squash their own people, but not to upset the Muslims. I mean, how is it that in English law-abiding country, that Sharia law can be, in certain areas of Britain, reigning supreme over English law, and nobody dares to do anything? The politicians that have caused the problem are scared stiff. They disarmed the population in many of these countries. I mean, the only people armed in Britain are the state government and the crooks. People can't have it. And here you've got this armed attack in Paris, although France has strict arms control. The bandit gets through, but people can't defend themselves. They're not allowed to defend themselves by the government.
10 seconds. Are we past the point of no return in Britain?
I wouldn't say that no return. I mean, it's a desperate situation, in my opinion, but Britain has come through desperate situations in the past, and people have forecast its doom and have bitten the dust as a result. So you never know. People can come up rightfully resilient and come back with tremendous power. And the Germans and the English in particular are famous for that.
All right, stand by. More with John Browne after the break. At a time when rumor mongering is always around, let's see how the British deal with it next. Welcome back to MidPoint. Former member of the UK Parliament and the senior economic consultant for Euro-Pacific Capital, our expert on British affairs, John Browne, joins us in studio. John, we're going to turn from the real serious nature of the EU right now to something else which has not only the United Kingdom but the world always fascinated, and that is this obsession with the royal family. And here we have a story that's out right now. A former teen and a quote-unquote sex slave of a billionaire writes in her new diary, she met Prince Andrew, twisted guessing game about her age, and according to the reports, drooled endless compliments about my blossoming figure. This has got people here in America who always want to talk about the royals. It has them fascinated. Does it fascinate the people in the United Kingdom as much when something like this comes out about the royal family?
Well, I think, yes, it probably does. I mean, when people are famous, and justly famous, whether they're football stars or monarchs or presidents, when there is apparent scandal, everybody seems to be interested. And the more famous they are, the further they have to fall, and therefore people are more and more interested. And I think people are interested in it. Whether it's true or not is another question.
Do the people in the United Kingdom hold the royal family to such a lofty expectation that when they hear things like this, they're shocked, shattered? Or is it almost as if it's happened before, it'll happen again, don't worry, it'll all go away? What's the general reaction?
I think a little of both. I think the scandals have happened amongst royalty before. And the other thing, of course, is speaking of the Queen, enormously popular. They ran a popularity contest a year or two ago in Britain for the Olympic year, and out of all the thousands of people that were nominated and all that, a very famous television person like you came out first, who sort of whispers into the microphone as two butterflies are copulating and whispers, and the whole of England's on the edge of their seats. The person who was second was Her Majesty the Queen. the second most popular person in the entire country. And she's also popular in Commonwealth countries like Australia, where they've had votes. So her popularity is not just something conjured up, it's real, because she is a real monarch and does a real job.
Okay, she does a real job. However, we keep hearing on this side of the pond that there's a number of people in the United Kingdom that say, look, let's get rid of the royals. It's time. They cost too much money. We fund their lifestyle. But at the same breath, they make a lot of money in tourism. What's the reality? Do the people in Britain want to get rid of them?
Cost money? My goodness, they cost a few tens of millions a year, even if it was 100 million total. It's nothing compared to the billions of dollars they earn for the country. Not just in tourism, which is huge. I mean, every mug with a Queen's face or a Guardsman's face on it, basically all due to the royal family. But also in business. I mean, the monarchs and people in the royal family go around boosting British business all over the world, not just within Britain, but all around the world. I mean, when the royal yacht went to Hong Kong, I would hate to think of the hundreds of millions, if not billions of business that was done on that one single visit. And so they're well worth the money. They're the cheapest and most valuable asset Britain has.
Is it still seen as something, though, of an unconventional relationship? Prince Andrew, Sarah Ferguson, they're divorced. They still live together. She comes up and supports him right now. The British people, we keep getting that stiff upper lip idea that maybe they might not go for something like this. Do they really care?
Well, I don't think they really care. I think they understand people are human beings. But of course, because of the fame and all that sort of thing, it has a sort of media attraction and an entertainment value. And people are in there for entertainment. As I said, the Queen is highly popular, and not just because she's Queen, but because people realize increasingly that she does a fantastic job in Britain. And it's not just trade, it's even politics. She's head of state, the focus of the nation. The police and the military swear allegiance to the Queen in person, not to some upstart of a politician, but to the Queen in person. Therefore, this steady flow of monarchy keeps great stability in politics. There's no one after her power. I think she will go down when the dreadful day comes and she dies as Elizabeth the Great, because she has been the greatest monarch we've had for centuries.
I've got about 10 seconds left. Do the people in Britain hate the fact that the media intrudes on the royal life all the time, or are they just now used to it?
No, I think they're used to it. I think they enjoy the tittle-tattle, but they don't like to see any serious damage done to the royal family.
Fleet Street, have a little fun. It's all right. Come on, tabloids in Britain, it seems as if they would be just fine with it. It's all right as long as we have our tea in the morning.
That's right. Got to stop for tea.
Thank you very much. We'll stop for tea next time. Thank you so much,
Thank
John.
you.
We appreciate that. John Browne joining us. All right. After the break, the call for free speech should mean all speech, despite what is offensive, something the French seem to be coming to grips with at this very moment. It's coming up right here next on MidPoint.